G'day there guys, it's your Aussie mate Markee, back at it again with another r/EntitledParents video. Now, if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good content. And our first story by a stoner snowboarder. Entitled Mother wishes that I would go burn in hell since I don't believe in hell. Just wanted to know that I am not encouraging any negative attention towards religion and that I respect it as if I was practicing it. So a bit of context. I was raised Christian, and when I got to the age of understanding the real world and how religion can be, I decided that there was no higher power watching over us. With that in mind, I didn't go to church anymore after that. So I never got to know the community that went to that church. And boy was that a mistake. I swear I can't go near any of them without them talking about the same thing. Some conversations got more severe than others, but the one I'm about to tell you takes the trophy. This took place at one of my favorite sushi bars, and now I work there for now as I am trying to get a different job that is higher paying. I was with my girlfriend and we decided to go to my favorite restaurant for our date. Though as we were walking to our table, I see a group of housewives and two of the people who went to the church I used to go to talking together and chatting about whatever they were talking about in the first place. Then one of them looks at me with disgust when she saw my tattoos, and then they all started looking at me the same way, which was kinda weird to be honest. Anyway, I was having a great time with my girl, and one of them walks over to our table. The conversation went around like this. Cast is OP, your boy. GF, best in the world. Housewife 12345, the Legion of Karens, destroyer of worlds, consumer of souls. And M the manager. So Housewife 1's like, ugh, what have you done to your body with those vile pictures on your arms? Me, wearing a black t-shirt with all my tattoos showing and was caught off guard by this comment, I say, I'm sorry, but what do you mean, my tattoos? Yes, of course I meant your tattoos. Gosh, aren't you the dullest crayon in the box? I laughed at this and had no idea what she meant by the dullest crayon in the box. OP laughing under breath. I'm sorry, but why are you here besides insulting me? To tell you that you have sinned and that you need God. My girlfriend's like, first off, don't insult my boyfriend like that. Secondly, we're atheists and don't believe in God. Thirdly, we don't need anyone else and leave us alone. Housewife 1 was shocked by this comment and gasped like it was her dying breath. Then Housewife 2 and 3 came over to see what happened to Housewife 1. Now, most of the people in the restaurant have the attention to the table that we're sitting at. Housewife 1 is like, how dare you insult me like that? And the fact that you don't believe in God is ridiculous. This is what God meant about not finishing his creation. Quite frankly, I had no idea that God didn't finish his creation. Though, since I was paranoid at this point, I decided to reply with this. Didn't God tell you to love your neighbor as you love yourself? The whole crowd was warming after that comment, because then everyone clapped, guys. I thought that you were an atheist, OP. Yes, I am, though that doesn't mean I haven't read the scripture when I was little. But that's just not possible, Jew, and yet you have to say that God can do the impossible. Looks like we were both right. Well, maybe just us, since we can't prove that God is. And I'm like, I agree, so why don't you leave us alone, or the manager will come to solve this situation, and I'm pretty sure that this will go our way. The housewives were struck with disgust because of our so-called bad manners, and then Housewife 3 went back to their table, but Housewife 1 and 2 stuck around for a little bit more. Housewife 1 is like, I knew you were never a good Christian. You always were the black sheep of the family. Don't talk to him like that, show some respect. No one cares about your opinion, goth brat. Now you people are starting to pee me off. Leave, now, and never come back. Hello everybody, what seems to be the problem here? These two verbally abused us and were threatening our lives. Is this true? Looking at us? I'm like, if anything, these two are the ones who are verbally abusing us. Though no one was threatened with their lives. You liar! My girlfriend's like, hypocrites! Let them go look at the footage to see who did who, and all of this will be solved. Housewife 1 and 2 say, no, we will leave them alone, no footage has to be brought out. Housewife 3, 4, and 5, packing up their stuff and paying for their checks, were trying to leave, so they weren't seen here. I'm like, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we have to review it since we have a complaint from these two. Housewife 1 looking at me is like, you're gonna burn in hell, atheists. Opie and girlfriend were like, we don't believe in hell. After that statement, they headed back to their table, pay for their checks, and decide to make a run for it. They ended up getting away, but at this point we didn't care. Manager reviewed our footage, and our statement proved to be true. We ended up getting free dinner for it, and decided that this will be one for the books. I ended up applying as a bartender at the sushi bar a week later since I was out of a job. We decided to have dates at our apartments for now since we were tired of them Karens. Dang, I never understand why people think shoving their own beliefs down other people's throats can change their minds, especially strangers. I know I've always pushed back when someone told me what I should be instead of what I am. Telling an atheist that they're going to burn in hell is like telling a Jewish kid that Santa won't bring them any presents. One would think that women that devout would remember the 10 Commandments about not bearing false witness, lying to get someone in trouble. Silliness all round. And our next story by Siren Wings X. Former half-sister ruins my game because her kid wanted to play it. This was a long time ago, and this was a former stepsister of mine who I came to despise fairly quickly, because she was a total fudging expletive. I wonder what that means. I could list off everything she did to earn this status, but that would take too long. Let's just say she was a massive mistake my mum took pity on. Oh! And we both came to regret it. The whole time she stayed with us, did nothing but cause drama, got mixed up in bad people who destroyed my brother's car, ran her mouth to me about everything, and managed to fault me for everything that ever went wrong. She came to live with us back in the mid to late 90s when our father passed away. Had one kid who was the absolute embodiment of It's Pat from SNL. So for this post, I will refer to this niece of sorts as Pat. EHS stands for Evil Half-Sister. So I had gotten a Nintendo 64 the previous year for Christmas. My fondest memory. Growing up in the 80s, I watched my cousins play on the Ataris and Super NES, and they never let me join in. I wanted to badly, but I was inexperienced at playing, so the way it would go would be, they would reluctantly give me a turn after being made by a parent who after leaving the room would take it back eventually on the grounds of showing me how to do it right. So I understand how it feels to want to play and not be able to. But I also swore to myself that if I ever got a video game system, I would keep it all to myself and play it all the time. Of course, the Nintendo 64 was not my first console. That honor went to the Nintendo, then eventually Super NES to the Nintendo 64. So I'd gotten a lot of that out of my system and actually enjoyed playing games with my friends. No one could outdo me in Super Street Fighter. Having gotten that out of the way, on to the story. So the following year, since the new N64, I got obsessively into the game Harvest Moon. So I was very excited when a Nintendo 64 version came out. I saved and waited, and the day came that I could finally buy it. $60 at the time. I lived on that game from the moment I brought it home. Well, one day, Pat saw me playing and was intrigued and wanted to try it out. So I let her play for a bit on her own farm. I let her play for like an hour or more. I get how time flies on a good game, but I was starting to fiend and wanted to return. So I asked for the controller back. Naturally, she had to just this to do, then that to do, then one more thing adding another hour of playtime. Finally, I had to put my foot down. The game was still new for me and I wanted to play too. After kicking her off at last, I go to hop on, when it's not long that entitled half-sister comes marching into the room wanting to know why I won't let Pat play my game, that I'm too grown for video games, stop being stingy, blah blah. My mum had to jump in and defend my right to not let her play. I bought the game myself and how she'd been playing for over an hour as it was. We ended up reaching an agreement to share custody of the Nintendo 64. I wasn't happy with that, but I didn't want to be greedy, and I knew how crappy it felt not to be given a chance to play. So I acquiesced the terms. but after a few days, soon began to realize that she was always on it. Every time I turned around, I never got a chance to play ever. I finally had enough and started locking my bedroom door to keep Pat from coming in. I had been playing on the TV in the den and kept it that way because I wasn't sure I'd be able to get it wired right again. The 90s was a different time. But I'd had enough. It was one thing to share, it was enough to watch someone else bogart. Naturally, once Pat got wind of the game no longer being accessible, entitled half-sister was brought into it to right the injustice. Only this time, my mum put her foot down and told her that I had every right to keep my own game and system all to myself, because the console was my Christmas gift and the game I bought with my own money, and she needed to drop it and get off my case about it. And she was tired of all the bickering. It was wonderful having my game back for a few days, until one day I went to turn it on and saw that it was just a black screen. Nothing I did would get it to work. I told my mum about it, and entitled half-sister overheard and said, "Well, that's what you get for being stingy." And when we looked closely, there was visible damage on the game connectors. She eventually got kicked out though, not for that, and I ended up buying a second game much later. But to this day, I still despise that tramp. She's not even my sister. Turns out our dad was not our dad. The man I knew as my dad couldn't father any children, so she was in no way related to me. She wanted to reconnect years later, claiming to be a better person now, but I refused. I was quite disappointed to know that she and that ambiguous brat of hers was still even alive. Oof. Just wanted to be clear, I wasn't against sharing. I can claim quite a few children who are now adults as becoming gaming addicts because of me, lol. But those kids were not nearly the same level of rude and hoggish as that so-called niece of mine. Now I have both nieces and nephews, a few that are through marriage and 2 of whom are blood related, that I absolutely adore to the moon and back. And my nephew, whom is related to me, loves games to this day that can be traced back to me. We played lots of stuff together, like Legends of Zelda games, GTA, Minecraft, all sorts of stuff. And yes, while I'm fudging old, I've never outgrown my love of games. If I were one to say yes and re-meet up, I would ask them to buy new wires or repair, I don't know, even a new one for damaging it. But sorry man, I'm still surprised they said they are better. No offense, just a little amused. Everyone that wants something from you claims they have changed, and they have. But it only lasts until they get what they want. They remind me of Saddam from the South Park the movie. I can change, Satan, come on Satan man, I can change man, come on baby. God, I love that movie so much, that's hilarious. How dare they mess with the world's greatest gaming system and harvest moon, those heathens. It was truly unforgivable. And our next story is by user randomuser058. Titled, "The entitled kid stole our stuff and entitled mother was shouting at my parents, because apparently the kids have a right to steal." So I have a little story that I want to share with you. It happened like 2 years ago, while me and my parents lived in our old apartment. To give you a little background to understand this story, this house, where our apartment was, had a room in the attic, where you could leave your laundry to dry, and the only access to the room was through the staircase, to which you could get only by passing our apartment door or through the doors of the other rooms on the same level as the laundry drying room. And the only person who at the time lived in the attic was the entitled mother, and her kids. The previously mentioned entitled mother was renting a 2-level apartment, so she had her main entrance on the same floor as we had. But she was also able to get to the attic without passing us, nor the main staircase. Now to the actual story. We live in an apartment with quiet, mid-aged to old quiet neighbors, in a quiet neighborhood in a quiet small town. Dubba-dee-dubba-die. Until the very day when the entitled mother and her loud, young, but quite nice 4 kids moved into the apartment next to ours. You see, in this house, we had only 5 neighbors, and just 3 of them actually lived there all the time, and they all were older than 50. So 12-year-old me was really happy to finally have some friends the same age in my neighborhood. One day, I saw the kids playing outside, so I tried talking to them. They were really nice, there was even a girl who was also 12. We talked for a while, we had fun, so I invited her and her 8-year-old brother to our flat. We had some tea and food and talked and played, and after an hour they left. My parents also thought that they were nice, until the next morning when my mum's earrings and a ring were missing. At first she thought I took it. I told her I didn't, so she assumed she maybe lost it. In the evening that day, when my mum went to pick up the laundry from the laundry room, she found out that a few socks and a towel were missing, but she thought some neighbour accidentally took it. She asked the people who lived under our flats, but it wasn't them. After a few days, it happened again, but now there was my dad's shirt missing too. After it happened for a third time, my mum assumed that someone of our neighbours stole it. So we installed a camera in front of our door so nobody could get into the laundry room without us noticing. I know it was a Karen-like move, but hey, somebody stole our things which costed like $150, not counting the jewellery, so it was quite upsetting. In 4 days, nothing was caught on the camera, but it happened again, so my dad was concerned it was the entitled mother next door's, because only she could get there without passing the camera. My parents asked other neighbours if they agreed with installing the camera in the laundry room, and the answer was yes. After another few days, us and the neighbours checked the footage from the laundry room, and the 8, 5, and I guess 15-year-olds chiefs were captured on camera. Chiefs, I guess that's children? So the same day, my dad goes to the entitled kids' flat and asks them if they have their mum home. Their answer was no. It was like 9 PM, which was weird to the time, and then my dad politely asks the kids if they know anything about the stealing things in the laundry room, and show them the footage, and the entitled kids start throwing a tantrum, and one of them hit my dad to close the door. My dad was really angry, so he rang on their door again and asked them to call their mum, but the kids refused. My parents then went to ask the neighbours for a phone number of the landlord of the apartment, and then through him, he got a phone number of the entitled mother. She eventually came home, and she was just drunk and shouting on everybody what the hell was going on. Then she started shouting and ignored what my parents and other neighbours said, so Dad showed her the footage. She said that she doesn't give a crap about us nor her kids, and walked into her apartment. What a lovely lady. Next morning, my dad was ringing on their doorbell again, now really angry, and demanding our stuff back. After 10 minutes, the entitled mother finally opened the door and the conversation went like this. Dad's like, hey, I know that your kids took our stuff. They're little and irresponsible. I know they didn't mean that. Can you ask them to give our stuff back? What? They didn't take anything. You're lying. They didn't steal crap. No, they did. We have it on camera. And then he shows her the video. You're a liar. It's not them. How dare you even come up to us saying such bullcrap? Please just give us our stuff back or I'll call the police. Look, we have the evidence. When the entitled mother tried to convince my dad that it was not her kids who stole the laundry, and even if, it's just a few pieces of fabric, which cost altogether like $350 now. Then she started screaming, and my dad ended up calling the police and showed them the footage. But that's not all. The entitled mother started convincing the police that her babies could never do that, and stuff. And when the policeman asked why did she left her 5-year-old kid alone with minor children for 12 hours, she responded, I'm a single working mother of multiple children. Policeman then asked again, why does she leave her kids without control for 12, maybe more hours? And she repeats the same thing like 10 times. Then after going to her apartment to investigate and look that if she wasn't lying, they found the lost things after 10 minutes. After taking a drug test, they found out that the entitled mother was drunk, and that her test was positive, so she was even drugged up. Then the police returned our stuff, and after a more careful search, they found my mum's jewellery. Then they took the entitled mother to the police station with her kids. I don't know what happened to the kids, but I know that the woman was charged for child neglect, theft, the things that her kids stole apparently weren't the only stolen objects in the apartment, and for possession of drugs. So she is probably in jail now. Their furniture and their belongings were moved out of the apartment, and after half of a year, we moved out too. It was actually a terrible experience, and I wish we didn't have neighbours like them ever again. P.S. Sorry for some mistakes, but English is my third language. Since when can kids steal? Last time I heard it was a crime for any age to be stealing. Theft is always a crime. However, the age at which a child can be held criminally responsible for their actions differs from country to country. It's usually somewhere between 10 and 12 that they are believed capable of understanding the consequences of their actions. The only exceptions are when the kids do something really extreme, like the boys involved in the Jamie Bolger murder in the UK a few decades ago, that kids under the age will be brought on charges. And yeah, that was a really grim one, that case. I don't like that one. Yikes, stay away from the railway, guys. And our next post is by user Vilmaris. Entitled Parent Makes My Life a Living Hell. So I'm a 16-year-old female. I have some difficult times growing up, since my parents still think it's the 1900s. So when I first moved to my new house back in 2012, everything was going okay. I wasn't the most social person ever, and I always kept to myself. I was sent to a private school and got bullied for years. I begged my parents to take me to a public school, and in the middle of 7th grade they did. I was free. Or so I thought. My parents are hardcore Catholics, so they expect more out of me, and they are also homophobic. I'm bi. I've always kept my sexuality away from them, until in the 8th grade I came out. They were not happy. They made comments about how I want to screw girls and dudes, saying how disgusting it is. They would call me gay from time to time. This was affecting my mental health a lot. I have had depression for years, and right now it's been taking a giant toll on my body. It all started when I started seeing these things, human-like creatures that would stay by my side. They showed up here and there, but as my mental health started getting worse and worse, I started seeing them almost every single day. I was bullied to the point of depression in my youth. I would snap at people and yell, which I didn't want to do, but it just happened. My freshman year of high school was when my parents' entitlement was too far. They expected me to do everything while my two brothers just sat around and do nothing. I was 15 at the time, while my brothers were 13 and 17. My parents made my life a living hell. In February of 2019, I had so much anger trapped inside of me, I snapped at my parents, saying how I wanted to kill myself, how everyone hates me. I was sent to something called outpatient. It's like being in a hospital, but during the daytime. No Saturdays or Sundays. I was there for 3 weeks, and did it help me? Not entirely. My parents acted all nice until I was discharged from the place. About October of 2019, I tried overdosing to take my own life. I took probably around 20 to 25 pills of Trileptol, a mood stabilizer that helps with my bipolar disorder. My ex of 7 months broke up with me, and I was crushed to the core. My parents were saying how I should get over him, but I couldn't. He used my body and money. I thought what we had was special. I overdosed to get out of this world, but then I was sent to this place called inpatient, where you're actually inside of a hospital 24/7. It was hell there, but I was only there for a week. We would have these parents' visits every Monday and Wednesday, and my dad would berate me to the point where I would cry, and he would get mad at me even more. Once I got out of inpatient, my dad asked me this. I'm not gonna read that. I was literally taken aback. The truth is, I do want to die, but I was too afraid that I might hurt my family and friends in the process. I kept quiet while my dad yelled at me in the car back home. Well, I convinced him to drop me off at school because there was a football game and we're performing. I'm in marching band, and music helps me through times like these. He gave in and let me go, and once I arrived, my friends ran up to me and hugged me. My ex is also in the marching band with me. I could barely look at him in the eye. My friends huddled next to me outside of the band room before the game, and I explained what happened. A few weeks go by, and I started dating my best friend. She's kinda like me, but she wasn't sent to a hospital for her mental health. I kept it a secret from my parents, because they would start yelling at me again. Around Christmas time, I was having a mental breakdown, and I texted my friend, telling him that I felt like my family hated me and stuff. He messaged my older brother, and all hell went loose. My parents were yelling at me. They took away my phone and laptop, banned me from social media, etc. I got my laptop right now, but I have to keep it downstairs and I can't play games on it. My dad still gets mad at me and worsens my depression. I was about to go out wearing shorts yesterday, It was about 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and my dad called me pretty bad word. I still get yelled at here and there, but I decided to just be the quiet one in the house, and do whatever my parents want me to do. I would be kept in my room on my laptop probably, watching some videos or playing a video game, and that would help me calm down. I would also listen to music and to help me with my anxiety. I still have the feeling of depression inside of me, and I started seeing Kane, the humanoid creature I mentioned up above, and he comforts me a lot. Edit, I'm doing a bit better now, but I kinda shut myself out, and all is going well for now. I just wanted to rant instead of bottling it inside of me. Edit 2, thank you guys for trying to support me. I really do appreciate it. Even though I'm going through this hell, I still love my parents. I don't want them to get hate, but I just wanted to get it off my chest so I don't snap. I don't plan on calling CPS or the police anytime soon. And our last story today, by Rainbow Alex X. COVID-19 is bringing out the best and the worst in people. So for backgrounds, I am from the Netherlands and I work in a non-supermarket store. We are not on lockdown yet, but almost in the entire country, we have limited touching people by using PIN only, and no longer accepting cash in stores due to the physical contact that it brings. Now, this morning our interim boss told us that starting today, we would do PIN only, and if anyone were to be an a-hole about it, we would call him and he would handle the situation. This basically meant that he would tell them again why they wouldn't be able to use cash, and if they would still give problems after that, he would let them pay cash at the service desk. Mind you, he had hung up like 100 posters all throughout the store, including at all cash desks and even in front of the shopping carts, that it is PIN only due to COVID-19. Now, there were a few really kind strangers who paid for people's business because they only had cash, which really warmed my heart in this time of crisis. But there were a few people that made my heart race and my temperature burn up. This particular entitled mother was the actual worst of them all, and happened to be over at my colleague's cash desk. The cast are me, colleague, Karen, interim boss, and the nice stranger. Colleague was ringing up entitled mother's groceries, and she told her the amounts that it came up to. Entitled mother wanted to give her money, and the conversation goes something like this. C's like, "Oh, I'm sorry ma'am, you can only pay by card now due to the coronavirus. Well, cash is a legal payment option and I want to pay cash. I'm sorry, but we can't do that, and we don't have cash in our cash desk regardless. So you really can PIN only. I'm not going away until I can pay cash." So I turned up at this time to open cash desk too. I hadn't heard the commotion yet. All I saw was that my colleague wasn't ringing anything up and the woman wasn't paying. So I figured she was waiting on a code or something. When there's no barcode sticker on a product, another colleague will get that for you. Anyways, I opened up my cash desk, and soon I saw everyone from cash desk 1 come to mine. And for 5 minutes, this woman didn't move, and people in line were getting cranky and upset. I still didn't notice anything really bad because I love cash desk and talking with customers, so that was where my priority was at. At one point, interim boss came up to the cash desk 1, and the entitled mother immediately started yelling at him. Basically just the same crap of, "It's a legal payment option, blah blah blah, I want to pay cash." Now, interim boss knew this entitled mother was not going to move away for the other customers, and either pay by card or leave her stuff. So he told her to come to the service desk and she could pay cash there. I only noticed this because another colleague had sent 2 stealing teenagers there and told me I had to watch them until they paid. However, I noticed they weren't paying, and that's when I noticed entitled mothers paying cash over there. Afterwards, when I closed my cash desk, I asked colleague all about it, and she explained what happened. In all honesty, I hadn't heard entitled mother at all, because when I'm working and talking to a customer, everything else goes dead, and I'm deaf to the outside world. I am noise deaf, so I focus on one thing, and I can't hear anything else. Which is a real struggle, because sometimes I can't hear anything at all if there is too much noise around me. So if my colleagues are talking through our ear communication system, I can't hear them at all, and that's why I didn't even notice anything at all except the people looking in disgust at the entitled mother. Anyways, we talked about it at lunch break. We were cranky about it for a minute, and then we moved on to the next crazy customer and eating our lunches. I hope you're all safe, eating healthy, and okay, and I wish you all the best. You are very lucky to have that option in your country. In the US, this, cash is a legal payment option and I want to pay cash, would actually be right. A business here can't refuse to honor reserve notes, money as payment. They can refuse to serve a customer for their behavior, but they can't refuse cash. Something about fearing it devaluing the currency? Not sure. Well, we normally can't do that either. It's just that our government made the decision to ban cash as long as the COVID-19 is spreading like wildfire. Europe is now the epicenter of the pandemic, and it's getting worse by the day. We're so close to a lockdown that it's even a miracle our minister hasn't closed all stores that are not primary, like a supermarket. The government decided this as a whole to help maintain the spreading of the virus and hope that it will start decreasing by less. So normally we can't do that either, but the government has changed this and decided this last night. Oh, and in the Netherlands, you can't pay with 1 and 2 cents, and 200 and 500 euro bills either in most stores. I'm pretty sure that's 20 and 50 euros, I've not seen 200 and 500 euro bills. Some supermarkets will accept 20 euro bills, but 50 euro bills are really only accepted by like car dealerships and such, so yes, technically those are legal payment options too, but every store can decide whether they use those options or not. Oh, don't mind me, I just looked it up on Google. 200 and 500 euro notes actually exist. Why do they exist? I'll never know. That's an insane amount of money. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions on these entitled people, because they really get on my nerves sometimes. But it's always lovely reading these out. Hope you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!